Hey guys, my name is Alicia and welcome back to my channel. This week's video is another Inktober time-lapse, and my schedule is a little bit out of sync during Inktober because not only is it this 31-day draw everyday challenge, which is quite difficult enough as it is, I am doing uni and I have assignments that are due. So yes, it's a bit of a stressful time, so everything's kind of a bit out of whack, but I'm doing my best to keep drawing each day, even though I've been quite terrible at taking photos and updating to social media. I haven't been filming every single day that I am doing Inktober because sometimes I might be doing it at uni or I might be doing it at a friend's house. I don't have my camera equipment on me. So this video is basically sketched out in pencil, and I had this idea to do this kind of like mystical bat with gems in its forehead and like peony flowers sort of all around it. Not exactly an original idea, but I just wanted to get something down. I'm not following any of the prompt lists for Inktober. I did Drawloween Inktober last year, but this year I'm kind of just going through and doing a few of my favorite things or whatever I feel like doing at the moment, just to make it a little bit easier on myself and keep myself motivated. Yeah, one of the rules I've imposed on myself for this Inktober is mainly doing ink. I'm allowing myself to do a little bit of pencil or a little bit of watercolor or some sort of color in the piece, and I'm trying my best to not use Copic markers. Now again, this is just a rule that I imposed on myself. It is not an official Inktober rule. I have a lot of experience using Copic markers, and I just wanted to make this a bit of a challenge, make it a chance for me to experiment and learn and do something a bit different. So that's just what I'm doing. So for this video, I'm just sort of going to talk about a few inking tips and tricks. Now for anyone that's doing Inktober or wants to do Inktober or just wants to get better at inking, I hope that these tips will help you out. It's quite difficult. I mean, I've been drawing for a long time. I've only had brush pens for about 2 years and I'm still getting used to them and still learning, and it's one of those things where if you don't do it for a while and you come back to do it, you kind of need to learn it all over again or pick up on some muscle memory. Maybe that's just me. One of the first tips I would have to say is know your inks. Now what I mean by this is, do you plan to use a brush and ink or a brush pen like the Pentel or Pilot, or just a fine liner such as the Sakura Micron or Copic one? Are these inks waterproof? Are they alcohol ink proof or Copic marker proof? That's what I mean by that. What pen brush works best for you and your style? Now for me, I love the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen and the Winsor & Newton ink because that is, both of those things are waterproof, they're alcohol proof, so I can safely do things and know that I can come back and colour and do whatever I want to the piece. I have had times where quite often I will use my Pilot soft brush pen, which I think I'm actually using in this video here. This pen and ink is not waterproof, it is not Copic marker proof, and it also depends on the paper as well, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And so I've done things and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do some ink wash, I'm going to add some watercolor, brilliant, got to do that, and then the lines smudge and everything feathers and the ink bleeds and you're not having a good time. So on to the next tip would probably be to know your paper. Now what I mean by this, some paper does not take ink well. It depends on its GSM, which means its weight or strength, or the tooth/texture. Paper that is too low in GSM will, things like printer paper and things like that, it will bleed, it will buckle, or generally won't give you a smooth look. And it'll be quite difficult to draw and to build up pieces. Like if you've ever tried to do watercolor on printer paper or like really cheap sketchbooks, it doesn't take it very well and it doesn't have a nice finish, and quite often things won't be as vibrant as well. When working with brush and ink, it tends to need a thicker paper or a high GSM paper, more so than fine liners. I feel that 110 GSM is a good place to start. You can use cartridge paper, but Bristol board or waterproof or watercolor paper is my personal favorite. The paper I'm using for Inktober is by a brand called Art Spectrum, which is an Australian brand. It's acid free, it's really nice. I think it's about 120, 150 GSM, so it's kind of thick. It's this weird combination of not quite Bristol board, but I don't know, I do quite like it. There's some feathering with some pens on this paper, but it's a really nice paper to use for general all-purpose stuff. It's really smooth, so it loves taking pencils, so if you can get your hands on that, do so. I will probably leave a link in the description if I can find one about where to get it. If you are in Australia, please get that brand, support local, it is really good. I need to get me some more because I'm running out because of Inktober. Moving on to my next tip would be to experiment with line weight. Now what I mean by this is you can do different types of lines, whether they're smooth or sketchy, thin or thick, etc. But one thing that can really improve line art is adding variation in thickness to your lines. This is called line weight. Now for example, you can sort of see what I'm doing here. Some of my lines are thinner than others, some are quite feathery, some are taper off at the end, and that kind of insinuates weight or the gravity of the object that you're drawing. I don't do it too much in this because this is kind of a very small piece, and so I don't have a lot of chance to make really thick and really small lines. But for example, things like flowers might have slightly thinner lines on the inner bits to describe the creases in the flowers, where heavy objects like stones and that would have quite thick and rough jagged lines. And that's just a way that you can use your lines to illustrate your object a bit more, as opposed to doing the same line weight for absolutely everything in the piece. It makes it harder to read, and then you start to rely on color and value illustrate your object, which of course this is completely fine, but it's just something to be aware of, and it's another tool that you can use, so it's always something good to practice and be mindful of. Moving on to the next tip is one that I'm sure many of you might know, but I feel like for some people who don't, this will be kind of like revolutionary because for me, when I started to figure it out in high school, it made a huge difference, especially when you're working on bigger pieces and stuff like that. My next tip is to ink towards yourself. Now this doesn't apply for absolutely everything, it depends again on the size that you're doing and your muscle memory and how much practice you do have with inking. So inking towards yourself, this is a simple thing that you may or may not know about, but if you ink or draw lines towards yourself rather than away, you get smoother lines. This is because you have more control. This applies to both digital and traditional inking, whereas a lot of my other tips are kind of mainly traditional. So if you are drawing away from yourself, you're more likely to have jagged or uneven or not confident lines. Whereas if you draw towards yourself, you have more control in that arm or wrist motion. So again, that's something to practice. If you don't know about that tip already, it can make a huge difference. It really can. Moving on to my next tip, and now this is the number one tip. Okay, this is the secret that you've all been waiting for. God damn it, my voice is breaking. This is the secret that you've all been waiting for, and that is practice makes perfect. Now, the number one tip, as cliche as it sounds, it really is. Not only will practice give you a chance to develop a style and your muscle memory, you learn the most from your mistakes, and there is no quick way to gain experience. You just gotta do it. And yeah, it probably, you know, sounds like, oh yeah, I've heard it all before. And if you have, and you're not doing it, what are you doing? I think I've said in like previous videos, I feel personally that sometimes you're gonna have good and bad days. That's just a given, and that happens to everyone, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're an illustrator or a painter or an athlete or just whatever you do, you're gonna have good and bad days, and that's okay. There are times where you can do your best to push through it, and sometimes when I know I'm having a bad day, I don't like what I'm doing, but I do my best to finish it and just try and get through it. And that practice, making mistakes, is part of practice as well. They say that often you will learn more from your mistakes than your successes. So practice makes perfect. Anyway guys, if you did enjoy this video or found it useful, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more art tutorial videos from me, please subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Friday/Saturday. And if you would like to follow my Inktober pieces, please go to my Tumblr or Instagram. Links are in the description down below. I would just like to do a huge shout out to my subscribers. You guys are awesome. And a huge thank you again to my Patreon supporters. You guys keep me going and make this possible. I could not do it without you, and I know people just say that, but literally I could not do it without the support that I get from Patreon, because that basically pays for my video editing subscription and things like that. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.